Professor Alan Dershowitz. Hello, and thank you for granting us this interview.
Shalom.
Let's just dive into the hot topics. What do you think of President Trump's deal of the century and the Palestinians' constant refusal?
Well, the Palestinians refused in 1938, 1948, 1967, 2000, 2001, and 2007, 2008. So they have never been willing to take yes for an answer. They never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. This is a wonderful deal for the Palestinians. They get a contiguous state, notwithstanding all the nonsense the other way. They get connections between the Gaza and the West Bank, which wasn't even provided for in the 1947 partition. They get $50 billion. They get land swaps. They get a Jerusalem capital, even though it's in a suburb of Jerusalem. It's a deal they should accept. Certainly they should accept it as a basis for negotiation.
Let's talk about the elections in America. What do you think will happen if Bernie Sanders win the Democrats' elections, and will the American jury support him?
I won't. I will spend the entire fall campaigning against him. He will hurt America. He is the Jeremy Corbyn of America. He tolerates anti-Semitism. He uses horrible words like racist to describe the Prime Minister of Israel. He never says anything critical about the racist leaders of many Arab countries. Never says a critical word about Abbas. He is totally one-sided. And what I worry about deeply is he will destroy the American economy, and there will be people who will blame it on the Jewish president who destroyed the American economy. So from every point of view, from a Jewish point of view, from an American point of view, from an Israeli point of view, Bernie Sanders is an absolute disaster. He is the Jeremy Corbyn of the United States.
It was the most lethal year for American Jews. Do you expect a rise in anti-Semitism if Sanders becomes president?
Americans are not anti-Semitic generally. The anti-Semitism comes now primarily from the hard left, and we'll see an increase in the legitimacy of the anti-Semitism of the hard left. Bernie Sanders will probably try to stop that. He doesn't himself encourage anti-Semitism, but many of his followers do, particularly the four women on the squad, particularly Ilhan Omar, who was an anti-Semite herself. And so we'll see an increase in left-wing anti-Semitism. But what's worse, we'll see a destruction of the American economy.
What is your take, by the way, about the Democrats' debate last night?
A disaster, just a disaster. They're destroying each other. And when it came to Israel, every answer was bad. Of course, Bernie Sanders, as expected, said he might bring the embassy back to Tel Aviv. But I thought Bloomberg was terrible. He showed absolute lack of knowledge of anything regarding Israel. He talked about Israel going back to its borders. He wasn't clear, but it sounded that way to me. No Israeli government is going to go back to its 67 borders. He couldn't even remember settlements or words like that. He basically said, you know, the people who are in areas, they have to come back. He was utterly ignorant. And I thought the whole debate, when it came to Israel, was a debate in ignorance and incompetence.
And maybe final question. You were President Trump's impeachment attorney and defended him on the Senate floor. Do you see similarities between what President Trump was going through and Prime Minister Netanyahu's trial that will soon start?
There are differences, of course. President Trump doesn't face criminal charges. He faced impeachment, whereas Prime Minister Netanyahu faces both criminal charges and the loss of his prime ministership. But there are similarities as well. In both cases, the crimes are made up. They're made up. You cannot have a crime in Israel in which the quid pro quo is getting better media coverage. Otherwise, every member of the Knesset would be in prison today. Every member of the Knesset wants better coverage. And many vote in order to get better coverage. That's similar to what President Trump was facing when they talked about a quid pro quo. When I made my speech on the Senate floor, I made that point, but then CNN quite deliberately distorted it and misinterpreted it, which is why I had to turn out the fastest book I've ever turned out. Within a week of my speech in the Senate, I published a book which has my speech. So anybody can now read it and see that CNN just lied, deliberately lied about what I said. And I'm thinking seriously about suing them for defamation, even though I've never sued anybody in the media for defamation, but they made a deliberate decision to have me say exactly the opposite of what I said.
Professor Alan Dershowitz, thank you so much for this interview.
Well, I love being in Israel, so thank you for interviewing me.